Yes, as we have been discussing it, Exxon Mobil actually disclosed false majeure, and that actually absolves it from any form of contractual obligation in terms of oil exploration and production, and that is affecting the production of oil and, of course, the government's revenue. They are saying it's because of the industrial action embarked upon by its workers. And this morning we have a comrade Anietie Udoh who will be talking to us. Why is it that the workers are going on strike? Thank you so much, PRO, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we hear issues as regards welfareism, staff welfareism, a possible downsizing of Exxon Mobil's workforce. But then we want to have a clearer picture of what the issues are. So can you kindly tell us, why is it that the workers are embarking on a strike now?
Generally, just like you've mentioned, it has to do with welfare, and the welfare issues is born from long drawn some heritage issues and some current, and the current ones will be specifically regarding the negotiations of the collective bargaining agreement. But some of the issues, of course, would have been existing, and we're managing it. But to this extent, it has come to a point where decisions have to be made. One of the issues with the Exxon Mobil has to do with her announced divestment, which I think is we all know has been in the public domain. And there has been a lot of attrition of people leaving, and the company has not been recruiting new hands to backfill on that. So what that means is that a job that 3 men would have been doing, if 2 leave, then we'll have 1 man still doing the same job at the same pay level and the same working condition. And without being told, you know what that entails to the 1 man doing a 3-man job.
So then does this internal wrangling certify, or should I say validate, Exxon Mobil declaring force majeure? Has it gotten to that point?
Oh, Exxon Mobil can answer for itself why she declares force majeure. But as a layman or a man out on the street, you mentioned it, there's a contractual obligation the company has to meet. And if there's any reason the company cannot meet such contractual obligation, she has to declare what the issue is, why that happens. And of course, that goes to say why the force majeure must have been declared, in a way of telling the partners, look, this is happening in my company, and for that reason, I can't meet up the schedule for lifting. And until that is resolved, that schedule for lifting will still be on hold. It's just a common sense thing to do.
But then does it seem as though that the union is not particularly concerned about the consequences of Nigeria being in danger of not meeting up with its crude swap agreements? Because we understand that the union is fighting for something, but then we need to look at it in a bigger picture and see how it is affecting the country and its economy.
It is the concern for the country that has kept even the union and the workers to this point. And like I mentioned, these things are not just happening now. They've always been there. The union is too much concerned. Remember, pipeline vandalism. It took the unions going to the streets in Abuja and trying to demonstrate and engaging with all stakeholders for our oil production now to increase. When I mean production, I rather mean supply, because the production from the work end is what it is. I will explain what I mean by that. If you ask me to produce 1,000 barrels of oil as a worker, I work towards producing 1,000 barrels of oil, put it on the line on my end. At the supply end, where it's supposed to be received, and you receive, let's say, 200 barrels. Really, you would not say it's my fault, because as a worker, I have put in the job for 1,000, I produce 1,000. If the pipeline is not secure, things happen on the pipeline, and at the receiving end, you don't get that. It wouldn't really be fair to say the workman would then suffer for that, because it would be the failure of either whoever is supposed to take care of the line, be it government, be it the company, and so that doesn't take away the fact that the workman has put in their effort to produce what is required. Having said that, that has been the situation in our country. It got to a point that the workmen couldn't take it anymore. It wasn't our job to go out there, but we did go out there, demonstrate, call on the union, call on the government, and did all we needed to do. and efforts were put in place. Now the receiving end now receive more than, it used to be below 1 million barrels, and I'm saying that conservatively. Now we receive at about over a million barrels, at least at the point we got to 1.4. That tells you how concerned we are. Go beyond and above what we are supposed to do as a union, national body, PENGASSAN, to demonstrate, to call on the government, to call on all stakeholders, to put all efforts to stop pipeline vandalism. And I mean, the news was everywhere. I don't need to repeat that. That tells you the extent we go for this country. And we've been doing this to ensure things go right. The stakeholder, people that are supposed to do it, they can speak for themselves. Now, the workers have come to a point that you put in effort for the work. The least you could do is to get the reward for the job you've done. And you keep being denied this reward in different forms, be it the welfare. Our labor law states clearly what is required of the employer with regards to employment. You need to provide the necessary tools to enable the man work well. You are a journalist, please, you can look into Exxon Mobil. Are they giving the right tools for the work? That's a question we need to ask. The oil industry, are they being taken care of the way they should be taken care of? What I mean being taken care of is not just about the welfare. How's the condition of service? We have facilities that were installed in this country some 40 years ago. What has been the maintenance on this? Some were installed for a particular capacity, and now are we meeting those capacities? Are we doing the right things? 40 years ago, some things that were okay today are obsolete. Have we upgraded our facilities to meet that? Those are the things, when you compare our industry to our contemporaries out there, are we meeting those? And the answer is we fall short of it. And the workers have been taking it. Take, for instance, specifically what we are seeing. The workers are clamoring for better work conditions offshores. It has to do with the food condition, it has to do with the welfare condition, it has to do with the facility itself. And instead of putting energy in trying to fix that, the company is looking the other way, and it's not healthy. So the pay is one component of the whole mix. There are a lot of things that have been ongoing, and the workers have been trying to live with it. But everybody has a stretch goal. Everything gets to a point where it's a give up. And remember, if I'm working on shores, the conditions are not okay, I can step out and get what I can get for myself to make myself better, irrespective of the company not meeting its obligation. Okay. But if I'm offshores, I mean, my money is worthless. There's no supermarket. There's nowhere I can go buying anything.
All right, Anietie, I understand. So we are talking about basic amenities being provided for the workers, staff welfareism, infrastructural development, even human capacity development. Now that the DSS and of course the federal government is seeing it as a threat to national security, you've also said that there have been discussions. What has been the response of government? Is it that they've been totally negligent as regards this matter? Because we are aware that there's a possibility that this strike might linger on and is affecting all the stakeholders. What has been the standpoint or the stance or the response of Exxon Mobil and the federal government as regards the plea or the complaints that you have tabled before them?
Well, Exxon Mobil and federal government can speak to what they do in situations like this. The government and Exxon Mobil can have some discussions that the union might not be privy to. They will also have discussions with the union that the company might not be privy to. But one thing we know, as at Monday, the government, through the NMPC Upstream Investment Management Services, has sent some communications to the company on what to do and how to resolve it. It's left with the company to adhere to it or not to adhere to it. I mean, that's their call. But as the union is concerned, the truth is, we don't need to get to this point every time, even for the government to step into some things. These negotiations we're talking about started December last year. Some things went behind the scenes, effectively started December last year. So if a negotiation has dragged from December last year up till April this year, if I'm in the government, I should think that something is ordinarily wrong. There are some companies that take 3 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month to negotiate. So if that is like a best practice, and another one is taking too long, without being called into it, being the umpire, as it were, you should already take keen interest in what is happening, get into it, so that it wouldn't be we wouldn't get to this point. But when
right.
you are not proactive, you become reactive, and
All
that is
right,
where reactivity
all right, comrade.
takes us to.
Now that the matter has been tabled before the Industrial Arbitration Panel, are you hopeful that the process or the response time will be expedited?
We are hopeful. By law, the arbitration panel has 21 days to resolve it, and unfortunately, the timing coincided. Like yesterday, the unions had their zonal election countrywide, and when the arbitration panel letters came calling for the hearing for today, the union has responded that we had elections yesterday, and everybody came from different parts of the country to that election, and naturally, travel back day will be today for people to go back to their base. Though it's short notice, we are fully ready and willing to engage. And we've asked the panel that, please, we are traveling back today and you're calling us to come back to come for hearing today. Can you give us till Friday so that we can now put our brief together, respond to you, and appear? As it were today, we've not heard any response affirming that or saying no to that from the panel. We don't know if they will go ahead to sit or not. But it will be in bad faith. I'm not preempting. If tomorrow they come up and said they have invited the union didn't appear. Because yes, we wish to appear, we want to appear, we've been waiting even for it because we've heard the rumors that the Minister of Labour has apprehended and they would call us to the panel, and we've been waiting for it. But you could tell that these elections would have been planned long before today. So it's not something that just came up. It happened yesterday and it's over. It happened over yesterday. Okay. I'm talking to you here. I'm still in the location because we have to tidy up some other things, get everything ready, swear in the winners, get them to take do handovers before we move forward.
Yeah, so finally, comrade, in situations like this, because you mentioned earlier that it doesn't need to get to this point before government begins to respond to the agitations and plea of workers. So now that we are in this kind of situation, what do you think is the quickest possible fix to at least get operations back on and see how more oil will be produced for the country to generate as much revenue that it would need?
When you say quickest possible fix, it's not a clear cut because you have to draw from precedents. From precedents, there are times the government or even the company will call and say, you know what, let's talk about it, we'll fix it, go back to work and everything will be fine. The union has demonstrated that over and over. But the downside to that is that doing that each time, we'll go back to work, let's talk, and even when you reach seeming agreements, they are not implemented. It's like until you get to this point, people begin to listen and begin to do things. What is the quickest possible fix? It becomes difficult at this point because you ask me now, do you want to take the word of mouth that will fix it? Let's go talk and return back to work and watch it. That will be doing the same thing all over. Or do we say, okay, let's wait, put it in a bucket. There are things you can do today. There are things you can do maybe sometime. So there's the short term, the middle time, and the long term. The quickest fix, if you ask me today, will be the short term things we can do. We come together, identify those ones, give a go to it, fix it. The long term, we'll have a plan to fix it. And we all agree on timelines. If we need to set a committee, we do that. Then we move forward on that. On that, it will be easy to gain a little trust, not totally, because we've had history. Then we'll move forward. But where any party comes to the table and say, no, go back to work, we will talk about it, or we cannot talk until you go back to work, it becomes difficult because precedent has shown that this has not worked.
All right, thank you so much, Comrade Anietie. I'd love to keep on with this discussion, but then we're just going to peg it at the fact that there's a possibility that something can be done, and it's all for the stakeholders to come to a compromise and see how some sort of resolution can be achieved between, of course, the union and the government. Thank you so much for joining the conversation.
I appreciate so much. And my last words to both Nigerians and the stakeholders, this is the biggest thing we have when you talk of national cake. We should not just be on the sidelines. We should be involved. We should ask questions. It's not about what the union says or what the company says. Data, we have the data out there. People should get involved, ask questions so that these things will be easier for our collective good.
Well said. Well said. Thank you very much.